Venezuela. Toni Messina, lay out the case against your client.
First of all, my client's even purported role was ancillary. There were really two separate plots. The plot started, the people who were involved in it initially backed out because they recognized this government informant and the main defendant, whose name is DeFreitas, as not being worth working with because they were not serious. And the government informant named Stephen Francis, who's an ex-criminal, was involved in some non-Muslim activities, to wit, he was engaged in some sexual activities with one of the co-defendant's children. And the Muslim people who were talking with him about any alleged plot backed out. They said, this man is not Muslim. They were very suspicious of him. It was at that point that Stephen Francis, this informant and former criminal, pushed DeFreitas on to find someone else who might be interested in the plot. Remember, Francis was someone who was facing life in prison. He had an open. He was convicted of drug trafficking, with a huge amount of drugs. And the government specifically wrote a cooperation agreement with him in an unusual way that actually said in the agreement, only if you bring people to prosecution can you benefit from this agreement and potentially get no jail. So he had a tremendous motivation to make sure the plot moved ahead. So when the plot first died of itself, the combination of Francis pushing DeFreitas forward led them to Kadir, my client. Incidentally, my client was a prominent man in Guyana. He was a mayor of his town, Linden, and he was a prominent parliamentarian, well respected by everyone as a religious leader, and also a political leader, and someone who helped his country. Remember, Guyana is a third world country. It's on the tip of, a very small country, on the tip of South America, next to Brazil.
He was the mayor of Linden, the second largest city.
That's right. And he was well known and well respected as people who helped his community and helped, largely Muslims in Guyana are the underbelly of the country because there's three major religions, Hindus, Christians, and Muslims. And he gave them the wherewithal to get education, to build schools, to get books. Suddenly, he's confronted by these people in his home. He would never have been involved, never have even met these guys, had the Stephen Francis not approached him with this man DeFreitas. Now, the issue here is the criminalization of thought and speech as opposed to action. Mr. Kadir did nothing. He took no steps to further this plot. But he did have conversations that were incriminatory. And I think what happened in this case, and this is the insidiousness of the government using informants, is there were things that happened that would make anyone raise their eyebrows, but it wasn't to the extent of pushing forward a terrorist plot. Now he's going to jail for life. A man of a tremendous reputation with 9 children and 25 grandchildren, whose community signed a petition to the judge of about 300 signatures saying, please let him go, this is unfair, whose party backed him to the very end, even after he was convicted. He'll be in solitary confinement, as he has been, for 23 hours a day, not even allowed to read the letters from his family or hold them in his hand, but forced to look at them on screen. This is a terrible way to end this man's life. And I'm afraid that this will just disappear in the morass of cases like this because the government's claiming they're right.
Well, we're going to link at democracynow.org to the major piece that Democracy Now's Anjali Kamat did on the issue of entrapment in various communities here. So you can check that out. Toni Messina, thank you very much for being with us, attorney for Abdul Kadir, and just sentenced on Wednesday to life in prison. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report.